Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Joe Francis, and this is the Joe Francis podcast. Today's guest is Chaitanya Ramalingegowda. Chaitanya is the director and co-founder of Wakefit.co. He oversees all front-end operations of the company in areas such as sales, marketing, technology, and customer experience. He holds an MBA from the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad and a bachelor's in computer science from the National Institute of Engineering. Chaitanya has over 19 years of experience working in several managerial capacities in large companies as well as startups. He has also been a serial entrepreneur and an angel investor, investing his professional expertise and acumen in various startups. Chaitanya, welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here, Joe.
You're welcome. So this podcast is all about for aspiring entrepreneurs as well as existing entrepreneurs, hearing from those who've kind of been in the trenches, been there, done it, not just the successes, but the challenges and the obstacles along the way. I think I have always found it very useful to hear from others. And I'm sure there are many, many out there that will as well. So probably the best place to begin is in terms of your formative experiences, your kind of childhood ambitions and some parts of your early professional career and how that developed towards entrepreneurship.
Sure. My dad was in the state government service. So that is basically euphemism for saying that we got carted from one city to another every few months. So I think as a child, I studied in about 10 different institutions for my 16 years of formal education. So living in multiple cities, moving every few months, making new friends. I guess in hindsight, that made me very adaptable. New situations, new circumstances, getting out of your comfort zone. It sort of makes it very normal. It normalizes that whole experience. You don't really think much about it. And once I finished my engineering, like there's that joke, right? That people in India finish their engineering and then figure out what to do with their life.
I mean, in India and some other communities, it is very common, to focus exclusively on the profession. So you've basically got the choices of engineering, accounting, medicine, or law, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I got done with it, joined my first job as a software engineer, but very quickly knew that I wasn't going to enjoy doing that for the rest of my career. So very quickly gave my GMAT and joined Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, where I majored in marketing and leadership. The next 6 years, I was in the US and Canada, management consulting.
Right.
But then I came back in 2011 when the startup wave was starting in India. If you remember those days, every day in the newspaper, there would be one small article. Today in the Times business page, almost half of it is dedicated to startups. Back then, there used to be one article every 2 days or 3 days where a Flipkart raising a small seed round or a Myntra raising an angel round. It was starting to make the rounds. And somehow I think there was an entrepreneurial streak in me. If you look at it, right out of my 10th class in my summer holidays, I had started a spoken English teaching classes in my aunt's garage in Mysore. So I took out an advertisement in the local newspaper. I wanted to teach people about spoken English. So and I had done that as a job in my previous summer after 9th grade, where I taught motley group of people. One was a salesman, one was a housewife who wanted to converse in English, one was a student from a rural area, but now he was studying in Bangalore. And so very different age groups, very different professions, but they all wanted to learn spoken English because they felt that was going to change their quality of life. It wasn't that my
was
spoken...
this online or was this physical?
This was very physical. This I'm talking about 95, 96.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah. So I was in 9th grade and 10th grade. So I had done this, and but then I forgot all about it. Those 2 summers I did, then 12th, then engineering, got busy with life. But I think in hindsight, I like doing something on my own, trying out something on my own. So that when I started seeing more and more news about startups, and I saw how much I was working in management consulting, I told myself that it's not about the hard work. I'm anyway putting in that hard work here. So maybe if I just put in the hard work for myself, maybe I can build something.
Yeah.
So 2011 end or 2012 Jan is when I quit my job and did my first startup. And within 10 months, the whole startup shut down. The team broke up. Every single person went back to a job or went and joined a startup. I, as the CEO, had made every single rookie mistake possible.
Fail fast and learn quickly.
Yes, but I think I learned a lot because I pretty much lost all of my savings. I had as a as an unplanned, naive first-time entrepreneur, I thought 10 to 11 months savings for my personal expenses would be sufficient. And in 10 to 11 months, we barely got a product out. Then this whole thing happened. We shut it down. The partners parted. So it felt very bad. But at the same time, one thing was clear that I I felt this is not why I quit my job for. So I need to give it another shot. So I didn't go back to a job. I incorporated another company, and this time did something slightly different in a different space. My first startup was in the dating matrimony space, while in my second startup was in the women's community space.
So the dating matrimony first one, was that like an app that you had developed?
It was a web app, and it was trying to replicate what eHarmony has done in the US.
Okay.
Working with psychologists to build a compatibility based matching profile algorithm in the backend.
Got it.
And the compatibility was being gathered through a lot of games and visual quizzes about you rather than just getting you to fill up a bunch of things.
Yeah.
So
what do you think went wrong with that? Because well, quite frankly, dating apps have more or less taken over the world now and changed in many ways the way people meet each other. So what would you say was the issue with that particular one?
I can cop out by saying that it was ahead of its time because it was 2011.
Yeah.
But I think I don't want to do that. There were other mistakes that I did on my own. Number one, all my focus groups and interviews showed that people were willing to pay for a completely safe environment where every person was vetted. But in reality, what they wanted was the perception of choice more than vetting.
Got it.
So on our platform, we gave vetted 3 profiles every day or every week, while you just logged on to Bharat Matrimony or Shadi.com or I think later years, I think there was Aisle and Tinder and so forth, where you just saw completely unvetted profiles, but it gave you a sense of control and perception of choice that I was choosing my own destiny. I was looking at it rather than a platform giving you a fewer but vetted profiles. So what they stated and what they actually wanted were very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Second mistake I did was instead of launching an MVP and testing it and iteratively building it, we worked with a lot of psychologists, built out a really strong algorithm, built out a really strong visual interface for collecting the user preferences, and took 6-7 months to build out the product and launch, by which time things had moved again. So there is no such thing as a perfect product where you sit in a cave and code for it for 9 months, 10 months, and then hope that it'll be a kick-ass product. The real world doesn't work that way. You start small, keep iterating, and build without waste using the lean startup framework. I made that mistake also.
So do you think in hindsight it would have been better to release earlier with whatever foibles were in place and gather user feedback?
Correct. Yeah. But in hindsight, I wouldn't have entered that market. Okay. Because another mistake that I did was that that's a very, very niche market in India. Either You put your neck out and say that, hey, I'm not vetting anybody. My job is to get you as many profiles as possible, which I was not very comfortable as a person doing. If I'm the platform owner and there are frauds, I'm not comfortable sleeping at night. But at the same time, the other version which we took was not the right product. So given that, I don't think I would have entered that product, that category itself, if I had the knowledge that I have today.
Got it. Yeah. So that one you decided to put to the side, but then you entered a similar space or a completely different space?
We accidentally entered a different space. What we realized was the blogs and content that we were putting out to attract women and men to the dating matrimony app was actually getting a ton of traction and very good feedback. So we said, okay, that company shut down, but we know content, we know the content engine, and we know how to build a community with very, very small budget. Can we make that 20x, 30x of what we were doing? So we said, basically, what I'm trying to say, Joe, is in the dating matrimony app, the traffic and the blogs that we were doing was to get people for a specific purpose, which is come here, find a partner. We said, what if we just did this 20x, 30x scale where they came for the content, we enjoyed the content, engaged with experts, got multi-format content to talk to brands, talk to people, talk to experts on all phases of their life. So the idea was a woman from puberty to menopause, anything she would go through, from pregnancy to beauty to fashion to makeup to fitness, anything, you would have really original, well-researched content in different formats, and people would come and engage. And what we ended up building was a 1 million strong community of women, with 40% coming from the US, 40% from India. That essentially meant brands came to us saying that, hey, we want to engage with your community. So the revenue model there was branded content in the heyday of BuzzFeed and Pop Sugar and so forth, which was a content to commerce journey. People come for the content, engage with the network, and then end up buying something. That's what we mean.
So was it somewhat of an affiliate play in that sense?
Not necessarily affiliate play, but branded content where product sale could happen through us, or people would pay us for the branded content, but then drive it back to their site for a transaction. The long-term vision was to have a e-commerce part there itself.
Got it. And was this user-generated content, or did you have the psychologists on board at this stage as well for some of the content?
We had experts, and we had onboarded them across the country. And what our main value prop was that we had figured out an amazing content engine, which was churning out about 500 pieces of content a month. Copy checked, plagiarism checked, high quality, well researched. We just boiled it down to a science to see what does the search engine say, what are people searching for, what material do you need, what experts do you need to crack it, and how do you edit it and publish it. So that engine was what we cracked and did it at a massive scale. And like I said, brands started working with us. But after 2.5, 3 years of doing this and 1 year of the previous startup and raising one angel round, not succeeding in Series A, getting to Series A, took the hard call to shut this down.
Okay, but you did. The difference here, rather than complete bootstrapping, was you did have some external funding for this one.
Yes, we had angel funding, but we tried our best. We couldn't crack a VC Series A round.
Okay, so what do you feel that was the main factor that drove you to move on from that?
No, I think by that time I was burnt out. It was 4 years of having quit a job. The business surviving, but not really scaling up at the level that we wanted.
Got it.
Me doing multiple consulting gigs just to keep the company alive, just to make payroll for the next month for the 10-member team that we had. So I think I was just burnt out and didn't have any more fresh ideas. And more importantly, I realized I didn't have the founder market fit, so to speak. I didn't enjoy hobnobbing for branded content. I didn't enjoy networking and working with the CMOs of different teams to just convince them and sell them and then do that. And it just became a chore after a while. So I decided to shut it down. But I did manage to get jobs for every one of my team members, and then formally wound down the company.
Okay, interesting. So I can see how the first one cascaded into the second. What was next, or was that? Did you start Wakefit next?
No, no, Joe. By this time my bank balance was literally down to zero. So I ended up taking up a job. I joined a Sequoia funded startup, which was later acquired by Amazon in India. I joined there as VP of operations at a lower salary than pre entrepreneurship, because the market did not value the work that I had done for those 4 years. Because as a founder CEO, you're the peon in the office, you're the CEO in the office, you do everything. So and the market clearly segregated talent into 5 buckets. Are you in tech? Are you in product? Are you in operations? Are you in sales? Or are you in market? Are you in, I don't know, one more, production, I think. So this market just segregated very brutally. And finally I didn't get a job, and I settled for something that would get me back to speed, at least to live my normal life and take care of my expenses. I was down to my last 800 rupees, and I said any job, but I tried for a long time, finally got this job, and I joined there.
800 rupees, that's cutting things a little fine.
Yes, you can say that.
Yes.
So did that, and like most things in life, that's where I met my current co-founder.
Right.
Very unplanned. It just so happened serendipitously that he is about 8-9 years younger to me, but very similar journey. He was IIT Roorkee, uh, good education, good pedigree, worked in a German multinational, quit that, done a startup, lost all his money there. And then he had joined the same startup because of the same reason as me, to earn back some money.
The one where you were the VPO?
Yes, I was a VP operations, and he was in my team in the process excellence department.
Right.
So we bumped into each other, became friends. And about 6 months later, Ankit is the one who had the idea for Wakefit. So he came from the foaming industry, and he was a chemical engineer anyway. So he had the knowledge of chemistry of foaming. How does foam work at a chemistry level? And then what do you do with that? Because a foam can be used for your car steering wheel, as acoustic soundproofing material, as a mattress, as a kitchen sponge. Depending on the chemistry, it's very, very versatile on what you can use it for.
And were they specialists in a particular area, or were they supplying for many of those areas at the time?
All of those areas.
Okay.
Through the German multinational, he was working and supplying raw materials for all of these industries. So about 6 months later, when he had this idea that something could be done on mattresses, I coincidentally had still retained some of my tech team from my startup, because that startup had not yet formally wound down. So I said, okay, it seems like a good idea, and maybe I am stupid or stubborn. Maybe you are stupid and stubborn. So we had both saved about 2.5 lakhs each from working for their about for 6 months or 7 months. So we emptied out our bank accounts once more and started with that 5 lakh rupee corpus for this and incorporated Wakefit.
Okay, I'll just for the non-Indian viewers, I'll just say what a lakh is. A lakh is 100,000. So what we're talking about is 250,000 rupees, which is, I guess, what, 2,500 pounds or something like that at today's exchange rates. Yeah,
you're right. So at about 5,000 pounds is what we ended up starting as an initial corpus. And I started, like I had said, all of our past experience and lessons came in handy here. So my 2 startups, if you remember, were all about demand generation and content building and community building on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
Ankit's past experience was on creating foam and good quality foam and trying to map it to sleep. how does a great mattress work. That was his knowledge and his expertise. So very organically, I ended up becoming the product manager and building out the website, building out the order management system in the back end, building out the customer experience team. All of those things I took over. Uh, Production, new product development, logistics, warehousing, Ankit took it over, and we just started off organically.
So, I mean, this is interesting. I want to just go to this bit about evaluation of an idea, because clearly the mattress market, specifically in India, there were already highly established players. Was that not a barrier to entry for you, or did you just believe that there was some unmet needs or something unique about your proposition that would capture share reasonably quickly?
None of that deep insight or audacious goals, Joe. None of that. Our thought process was fairly simple. All of the incumbents are 40 to 50-year-old companies. There are 3 or 4 of them which are really, really big, and they are selling thousands of mattresses every month. But none of them were focusing on the online space.
Got it.
So we said, okay, at best, we might be a small lifestyle business of a few crores 5 years from now. It's okay, but at least it's our shop. Let's try once more. My third startup, Ankit's second startup. Let's just try it out. That was the simple goal with which we started. And the journey has taken us also by surprise.
So you did not do all these focus groups, extensive market research, any of that. You had some knowledge about the products, presumably, and you understood about kind of demand generation, as you said. And from there, it was kind of gut instinct to just get started.
Yes, gut instinct and the lessons that we had subliminally learned, subconsciously learned. So one lesson was that we were not going to do any focus groups or interviews. We were going to test out the products in the market directly. Mm-hmm. Second insight was that was the time when everybody was saying that I want to be the Uber of X. I want to be asset-light platform. And here we were saying that, no, if we have to have control on the product innovation and cost, we need to manufacture it. So we went into manufacturing. The third lesson was, I don't know if you remember, Joe, 2015-16 was another boom cycle in startups.
Yeah.
Funding was crazy. People were raising hundreds and hundreds of crores to just get to the next milestone and blow it up and just try and raise the next round.
Yeah.
That had really scared us. We said we are never going to be like this. We are going to have the destiny of our company in our hands. So
your idea at that stage was that you would fund the business from organic cash flows.
Correct.
Okay.
So for the first 6 to 9 months, I didn't join the company full time because we couldn't take 2 people's salary. And Ankit had just then married and he was full time. So we said one person's salary, and I will continue to work on the product, customer experience, and do it from outside. About 6 to 9 months later, we could take 2 people's salary. That's when I quit my job and I joined full time. So the idea was very simple: keep funding the growth through internal accruals, deliver a good product at a very affordable price point in a segment that people are not focusing on. It's not yet highly competitive. And in that space, if you build your reputation soon enough, people will trust you. That was a simple enough theory.
So you were focused on the memory foam product, right?
You're right.
And delivering via e-commerce platform. Did you use existing e-commerce platforms or did you develop your own?
We developed our own. Day one was all sales on one of the existing e-commerce platforms. But within about 6 to 9 months, we had moved about 60-70% of our sales to our own website.
Okay.
But even to this day, we've kept that intact, where the focus is to build brand Wakefit rather than depend on marketplaces.
Yeah. So that obviously built, you started to generate volumes. And at what stage were you focusing on brand Wakefit?
I think a lot of people mistake branding for advertising. I strongly believe that simple statement that I don't know who said it. They said that brand is what people talk about you when you're not in the room. And for the first 18 months, we did not have any marketing budgets, neither performance marketing nor branding. And we literally focused only on great customer experience and word of mouth. So we started the company in early 2016. We incorporated it, and April or August, August 2017 is when we started advertising for the first time in performance marketing. And then for the next 2.5 years, we did only performance marketing, zero branding. So what I'm trying to tell here is that if the product is good, the post-sales engagement is very good, the brand takes care of itself. And we did something very unique. You remember, this is 2015-16 when the trust in the e-commerce ecosystem was very low in India. Early adoption was happening at that time with Amazon, Flipkart, Jungli, and Myntra was happening. But even with that trust slowly getting established, there was a healthy degree of skepticism on products bought online. So we created a process which said, after the product is delivered, we will call the customer and simply add value to their lives without trying to upsell or cross sell anything. We would just call them and say that, hey Joe, we hope you received the product yesterday. Our system shows that. How did you like the product? How did you like the feedback? Second thing, we know that your body is going to undergo some changes over the next 14 days because you're moving to a new sleeping surface. By the way, if you face any issues, we are here for you. You anyway have a trial period within which you can return the product. Lastly, this is how you take care of your product. You need to keep it like this. You need to avoid stains like this. If stains do happen, this is how you need to take care of it. Thank you very much. You won't believe the kind of goodwill that generated. And they would just send us mails saying that, hey, I got this call. I kept waiting for the sales pitch. It never came. So that was a game changer where people started writing about reviews, writing on Amazon, writing on Flipkart, saying that they're a trustworthy seller. The product is really good. My kid loves it. My arthritic parents love it, so on and so forth. And that generated a lot of word of mouth.
Because I think in a country like India, sometimes people might be a little reluctant to consider memory foam because it has this reputation of being very sort of warm or hot. Was there any frictional elements around getting people to accept that, or did the trial period solve a lot of that?
The solution was twofold. One was content and second was trial. The content clearly showed that the statement that memory foam generates warmth is actually a myth, because that used to happen in adulterated foam. Adulterated foams use fillers. So these unbranded local guys who say we are doing foam or memory foam, they use fillers in order to cut corners and increase their margins. When body heat reacts with that, it generates even more heat. But when you use a pure quality foam with zero adulterants, like what a big company like ours would do, then nothing happens. And that's why our products are being used in Rajasthan, where it's 42, 43 degrees Celsius, or a humid place like Mumbai. So that is the first part, which is educating through content, saying that, hey, don't worry, that was in a very different context. In this one, we've taken care of that. Second step of the problem was the trial period. And we were one of the pioneers to introduce that. And let me tell you, we were scared out of our minds, because if the returns ended up being something similar to what is happening in apparel category, we would really be well and truly screwed. So we said, but we still have to push the envelope and try it out. In worst case, we will turn back the policy. That's how we thought. But fortunately, our customers haven't taken advantage of that, honestly.
So the product, you were getting a lot of confidence from the feedback from customers, and obviously the volumes were increasing. What was the stage at which you realized, okay, let's start considering funding options to fuel the next stage of growth?
The first 18 months, we didn't want to raise funding at all. It was chugging along at a slow pace. steady growth, margins were improving. We were able to take 2 people's salary. We said, okay, let's continue running it as it is. But then we realized that if you want to increase the product innovation, increase the yield of the production facilities, then you need to set up much larger factories, much more state of the art machinery that you get in Europe. Germany, Turkey are all really good foaming and mattress making machine. They manufacture very good machines. So if you have to do all of that, it's not possible through internal accruals. And
just as a matter of interest on this point about the manufacturing, at this stage, were you using contract manufacturing, or had you set up your own facilities?
we did not have contract manufacturing after the first 2 or 3 months. It's from then on, we have steadily moved into various stages of production. First, we got into assembly, then we got into local batch foaming machines that are made in India, very, very inefficient. Then we moved into this German state of the art machine. So it was a stage by stage evolution, but we moved away from the contract manufacturer within the first 3-4 months.
Yeah, very interesting. So how did you actually prepare for those next stages? Because okay, I mean, there are some people that will want to just pursue an organic path and fund everything organically, but you mentioned that if you were to get that latest state of the art machinery and advance things to the next level, then it was going to require external funding. How do you prepare for such meetings?
Joe, we tried for about 18 months before we could get our first Series A round. And it took us 41 rejections and 42nd investor to say yes. And yeah. So the main problem that everybody was facing was, is this a big enough market online? Will this digitization process continue in India? Will people move for this category at least to buy online? So that was a big question that investors couldn't get comfort on back then. And we would just go well prepared. We would do a lot of research on market size, consumer insights, customer cohorts. We would have done all of that. We would go into meetings, and we would have very weird experiences. One investor would ask everything other than our birth certificate, to go to that level of granularity, and then disappear, stop responding to our messages or emails. One investor would discuss everything for over 6, 7, 8 meetings and then say that, hey, I'm not convinced about the market size. One investor would say that I like you guys, but the market is not big enough. Another investor would say that it's very easy for an incumbent to just enter the online space and kill you overnight. There's no defensibility. So we would go all pumped up, well prepared, and then meeting after meeting, it would be a no. And then we would be really dejected. But then we would come back to office and feel that, hey, business is still there.
Yeah.
Our 20 to 30 teams are still there. We're able to employ them. Okay, tomorrow is another day, we'll figure it out. So this happened for 18 months. And finally, Sequoia Capital took the bet on us and invested in our Series A. $10 million.
Did you had contacts with Sequoia from your previous role? Did that assist at all? Or?
No, none of it. Yeah, none of it. Sequoia, the partners that finally invested in us had no clue about, but they did do my reference check with my previous startup.
Right.
With the founder that I was working with there. So that ended up being a happy coincidence. But they took a bet after multiple rounds of interviews and data and said that our thesis is that we believe digitization is going to continue. Our thesis is that having full stack design to manufacturing to installation, it should be owned by the same company to derive efficiencies. So you both are doing that. So we will invest in you. So it was a $10 million Series A round that finally happened.
Brilliant. And how, I mean, following that injection of funds, did you have a clear plan about how you were going to use that to advance matters?
No, again, we didn't have too much of a in-depth plan. We did have a broad usage of proceeds plan. But the only thing that was clear was that we were setting up that German machine. And second thing that we were clear about is that we were going to install a roll pack mattress machine. What I mean by that is you just roll and pack the mattress into a small cylindrical shape.
So it's easier to transport.
Yes, even a giant king size mattress of 10-inch thickness would go in a small cylinder, which would make it very easy to transport, reducing our logistics cost, and more importantly, open up more pin codes for us to reach. So even a Leh Ladakh or Jammu and Kashmir, very far flung areas, we are able to reach very comfortably because now the package size is small.
Were you supplying only domestically at that stage, or had you considered export markets as well?
Even to this day, we are only domestic.
Okay.
We do plan export somewhere in the future, but currently the focus is to continue to grow the domestic market.
Yeah, got it. So you mentioned this rolling thing. Now, just from my own experience of having a mattress previously, there was a memory foam layer, but I think there were other layers as well which were not particularly flexible. Is yours completely memory foam then?
No, a complete memory foam may not suit the purpose because it has a very specific purpose. It gives comfort by contouring your body and relieving the pressure areas.
Yeah.
So if you make the whole mattress in memory foam, you'll just sink in. So there's 3 layers, each with a very different purpose. And we have chosen the raw materials and engineered the product in such a way that the complete mattress can be roll packed.
I see.
So it comes to you as a carpet. You open it up, and within 10 minutes, it comes to its full shape of 8 or 10 inches.
So you just let it sit there and it will kind of come to shape.
Just 10 minutes.
Yeah. And is it heavy, like for one person to move?
It's not so heavy. It's one person can easily move it, especially because our bag comes with a handle. But once you open it, it becomes its full shape. It's very possible for one person to move it.
Okay. Well, the business is obviously growing, and you've now got an investor as well, a significant investor. Did they put some of their own people in as well? Did the kind of DNA of the company change at all, or anything? What were the changes following that investment?
No, I think Sequoia's style is pretty much hands off. They say that we need our monthly MIS reports, quarterly board meetings, but other than that, we trust you to run the business. As long as it's ethical and as long as it's within the bounds of law, we'll just be hands off. We are a financial investor, not a strategic investor. Mm-hmm. That's the approach they always took. But 2 things that did help. Number 1 was credibility. Just because Sequoia invested after thorough due diligence, the media, the industry, our vendors, pretty much everybody started taking us much more seriously. And even our talent attraction to hire people became easier. Because even with a very good top line, there was a healthy degree of skepticism because there are many companies in India in the unorganized market which have a very healthy top line, but a lot of it happens in cash, which means it doesn't really show up as your accounts. Yep. So when people saw that a great multinational fund has invested in us, suddenly credibility went up and it made our life easier across multiple spheres. Second thing it did to us was bring a lot of structure to our finance and reporting. Just because we had an investor now, we ended up implementing SAP as an ERP system, ended up getting much more in-depth in our MIS and reporting, looked at much more segment level profitability. So we became much more rigorous on things that we weren't focused on when we were running the company on Excel sheets. And the last thing that they helped us with was hiring. They have a very solid talent team, which helps us in referring candidates who might fill CXO positions, who might work with us as consultants in fixing a specific area. So they would keep connecting them, and it's our choice whether to work with them or not. But that again, because it came from Sequoia, we would trust that person more and engage deeply. So these 3 were big things that they helped us with.
So from a human capital perspective to scale the company, where did you see were the main areas that you would need additional resource?
very quickly we realized that Ankit and Chaitanya are the two bottlenecks of the company. So what worked to get us till there was not going to get us to 1,000 crores. So that's when we first hired a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, to take over our complete tech stack and ensure that we are a truly tech-enabled company where all the data is flowing seamlessly. We get a lot of transparent reports on the state of the business. We do all of that through technology. The second person we hired was a CFO. We said if we need a business that is completely compliant and completely following accounting standards and have very tight controls to prevent leakages, we need a very strong CFO. So we did that. And slowly we started adding data science, product engineering, design, manufacturing, all of those team members steadily. Today, the leadership team is about 10, 11 members strong. And every fire is not my fire or Ankit's fire anymore. There are leaders who own those departments. And that's the reason we have been able to scale. If we both had been running the show, I don't think we would have gotten anywhere. So today, that's been the philosophy. Hire the right people, give them room to succeed, and just give them the broad guardrails of absolute do not do or absolute do. For example, one DNA that you'll see is that nobody likes to see a customer in pain. Another thing they would not do is be disrespectful to colleagues. So there's some broad things that remain very, very deep. Everything else is fine. So that is one thing that that's the culture we have built over a period of time.
Yeah, from the various content that I've seen, it seems that you've built a very strong culture within the organization. I mean, in terms of the size, the number headcount that you have now, what is that approximately?
About 1,600 people full time.
That's 1,600 people. What, located in one area or across the country?
Located in about 23 cities.
Okay.
Plus, there are another 1,000 people on contract.
So those developing that culture, where in an organization that has grown as quickly as yours has, how do you go about doing that?
It's very, very tough, because that's one thing we worry. Is the 1,601st employee that is joining, is he or she as passionate about the problem as we were when we started the company? If not, we will be just another bureaucratic 9 to 5 company. And I'm not referring to the number of hours as the number of hours of working. I mean, do we really own the problem? Do we really take products and problems to closure? Do we really step in and do what is needed irrespective of my role? Do we really live the values of Wakefit? Those are things that we worry about. But one thing we have realized as a simple way to continue to ensure that people know this is simple rituals. I'll tell you one example. Even to this day, I am on the Wakefit escalation Slack channel and WhatsApp group. So when somebody tags me or somebody tags the company and escalates something, I make sure to put it out there, chase it down to completion, check the root cause, and finally flag it as closed. So with this simple action where I dedicate some of my day to that, people, even the freshest member in the team, would know that this is something that everybody is looking at. Everybody is losing sleep on. So my first thing when I wake up, or the last thing before I sleep, is exactly this. So it's a ritual. So rituals are the simplest way to explain to people more than any training program can.
You have developed a fantastic culture and you've developed a fantastic business. It began with mattresses, but it sounds like you expanded into furniture as well.
Yes.
As a kind of product line, how's that doing?
It's already, we started that about 2 years ago, Joe. The furniture category is contributing to 22-23% of our monthly revenue already.
Fantastic.
So we feel that over the next 3 years, that furniture category, given that the base is small, will continue to grow at 80 to 100% year on year. While mattress and sleep, given that the base is very big, will continue to grow at 40 to 50% year on year. So that's the path going forward. We have to just put our heads down and continue to execute.
So that's the vision of the future then for Wakefit, is to pursue these two major lines in the manner that you've just mentioned.
Correct. We look at Wakefit as a sleep and home company. So anything around sleep, anything around home is what we should end up having a full portfolio over the next few months.
Brilliant. Well, just to kind of finish off, your journey has obviously been pretty incredible, and you've had some, I wouldn't call them failures. They say we win and we learn, and you had some learnings with your previous ventures. What would be your basic advice to people considering entrepreneurship? Maybe those that were in that position of they have a fairly high earning job with a well-known company. There's a lot of social prestige attached to that, but something doesn't quite feel right, and maybe they want to consider doing something on themselves. What would be some of your thought points around that?
I think no amount of reading books or blogs or startup gurus is going to give you any insight that is going to help you run your startup. Every startup is different because every startup has to discover its product market fit, and you will know that only by starting it. And if you think that is too much of a leap, one simple way is to join a young startup or join an early or a late stage startup also, because that gives you a bird's eye view of how a small company functions and how an agile company discovers its product market fit. So if starting up on your own is too big of a leap, at least join a company in the space that you're interested in while you continue to think about your idea. That's point number one. Point number two is it's a fairly tough journey. So having a co-founder helps. There are many days where you don't want to wake up and come to work. There are days when you're super excited. And as a startup founder, every emotion is supremely amplified. The positives are amplified crazily and the negatives are amplified crazily. So, but when you zoom out and view with a perspective, you'll know that the positive was not such a big deal and the failure was not such a big deal. It was a small blip. You move on. But this, for this perspective and a sounding board, having a partner helps. The third thing that I would recommend is please read Lean Startup by Eric Ries and read Paul Graham's early essays on how to discover product market fit without wasting financial and mental resources. The fourth thing and the last thing that I want to tell is marketing does not require money. Marketing requires brilliant ideas. So we have been fortunate to have 6 or 7 crazily viral campaigns, which have racked up over 100 million views. And believe me, all of them have been done on a shoestring budget of a few £1,000. So think about a content idea, think about what works for your segment and focus on that. Capital should not be the constraint for brilliant marketing.
Yeah, that's amazing that you got that kind of traction with. I mean, so you didn't end up going for the major marketing companies, or rather, you've handled these things internally.
Yes.
It's incredible, Chaitanya. I think you've passed on a lot of knowledge, and it's been an incredible journey for you, and an incredible story to hear. So thank you very much, and best wishes to Wakefit.
Thanks for having me, Joe. All the best for the podcast. I hope whoever has listened can take away a few things and avoid some of the mistakes that I have done, and they gain from that. All the best.
Thanks very much.